End result. Why all the fuss? Why all the anguish? Why all the hate? Why all the blame for what? At the end of the day, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? You know, there's a story that Buddha tells. There's a woman who came to him who'd lost her baby. And she went to Buddha. She said, Buddha, 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 please, please, here's my baby. I know, Buddha, you can heal this baby. All you have to do is heal this baby. And the Buddha said to her, I will heal the baby on one condition. I want you to go to every single household in this village and find out if there's been no death in that household. If you can find one household where there's no death, I will cure your baby. So of course she thought, this is going to be a piece of cake. I'm going to have my baby back. So she went into every house, knocked on the door. I need to know, has there been a death? Oh, lost your grandparent. I need to know, has there been a death? Lost a brother. Oh, I know. And it went on like that. And she found out that so many people had lost babies or children. And she came back to Buddha and she said, forgive me. This is the way of the world. And then ended up to be his disciple. So there is, you know, we keep saying there are two things you can be sure of, and which is, who knows? Two things you can be sure of in this life. Death is one, and what is the other? What is the other? Change. Change. Everything changes. Are you comfortable there at the back?
Yes.
Because you're very welcome to come up forward. There's loads of space here.
We've got a better view.
Okay. Okay. I can't see some of you on that side, so perfect. Yeah. You're very welcome to come forward if you like, huh? Yeah.
This was for Francis' friend who was going to see Roger today isn't here. But since he caught up with Sutra of death, I think we might want to read that those people that maybe.
Okay, Lakshmi has brought something for me to read to you.
But it was for someone, but he's not here, so maybe it should be read out.
Yes, yes. He's
Just to
coming
share
next
so
week,
that,
yeah.
you know.
Somebody just lost a son as well. And, let's see. Oh, I know this one. Miss me, but let me go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set on me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all a part of the Master's plan, a step on the road home. When you are lonely and sick of heart, go to the friends we know and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. Thank you. Do you know, when my husband passed away, I had this poem next to his photograph every day for a whole year. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I thought it was extremely selfish to be too sad for too long. Because it's free. We talk about soul, we talk about spirit. This is what we do here week after week after week, isn't it? I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm soul, I'm spirit, I'm immortal. You're immortal. You read all the spiritual books, you're immortal. You're immortal. Energy never dies. Science, consciousness never dies. And now science is proving there's a divine consciousness everywhere. Well, it's already proved it. But they don't give it a word, the name God. They give it consciousness in everything. That's the name they give it. We give it the name God. Some people give it the name nature. You know, what's happened in our world, the problem has started because we got so confused with the words, the misinterpretation of words. This is why our master used to say, when you speak, make sure you think before you speak. Because words are very powerful. They can make or change a life. And one of the big problems in our world, as Sri Patanjali will tell us, is misconception. We must conceive so many things because of words. And maybe your interpretation of the word is different from my interpretation of the word. You can say somebody is really mad, and you mean they're just gone a bit silly, and I could say silly. But mad conjures up in somebody's mind, somebody's going crazy, and she could really mean the person is silly. Do you see what I'm saying? So mad conjures a different image from silly, but people use different words. And then they go back and say, oh, do you know, I heard from this person, she's gone mad. And I go, no, she's just behaving a little silly. Nobody's gone mad. So there's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding that happens. And from these misunderstandings, they create so many problems. The whole science of yoga is to be aware of what you're doing, to be living in the moment, to focus on what you're doing. And when you're doing one thing, do it well. Do it to perfection. What is yoga? The Bhagavad Gita says yoga is perfection in action. But half of us are doing one job and doing another job here and another job there, and the mind is in 10 other places, so you'll never do the job well. You'll do things always halfway, and there's no energy, there's no spirit in it. When you do something with your spirit, with your soul, with your energy, with your battery, that's far more greater than this personality, there is a flow. It's almost like the divine is working through you. It's almost like, where am I getting all this from? Because when you're focused and when you do it with love, what does Sri Patanjali tell us? To do everything with love. Attention is another word the Buddhists use. Do it with attention. Do it with awareness. Do it with that focus. And it's like a laser beam. And you do it well. And this is Sri Patanjali telling us how to understand the human psyche. How to understand the human personality. Because we'll come across lots of problems in our life. So we will continue on the study of Sri Patanjali. And what sutra am I on, Shanti? Would you know? I've been doing them everywhere in the world.
Sutra 36 on page 131.
I don't have a book. Oh, thank you. So there are many new people here today, and can you tell me how many people have never heard of Sri Patanjali? Okay, quite a few. Sri Patanjali was this really wise soul, or many wise souls in one. Nobody really knows. It existed about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Nobody even knows exactly the date and time. In those years gone past, all spiritual knowledge was passed on from guru to disciple. The word guru means remover of darkness. Got it? Guru, the actual meaning is remover of darkness. So any kind of spiritual knowledge was passed on like that, verbally. Nothing was written down. And only to an elite few. Why only to an elite few? Because the highest science of the mind, is very difficult to grasp. Most people need religions to live a good life, and they need rules and regulations. And this science is understanding that you do need these rules and regulations, but to develop something further while you're living, to actually be in connection with the source. Or what the Buddhists would say, nirvana, and the yogis would call it samadhi, that state of transcendental peace. Transcendental peace. And we can all get there. But not everybody was able to grasp this knowledge. Because, of course, there was no education in those days, right? So there were a lot of village people who couldn't understand it. And in fact, many people came to this knowledge only because they had lost somebody through death, or through some terrible pain, or through some shocking event in their life, natural disaster. So they used to come to these forest academies, they used to call them. And sons of rich kings, the kings used to send their sons to go and study at these forest academies, because they felt that when they had the spiritual knowledge, they could rule the country well, in love. And real politics at that time was to serve the people. Nowadays, it's power. Greed, sorry, is the truth. It's an absolute truth. But politics in those days was to serve mankind. So if you're given a position of wealth, your duty was to look after all the people in your village, to make sure they had food, to make sure that they were in connection with the highest. And in order to do that, you had to study. So these academies were full of people like that, and people who wanted to be monks. So Sri Patanjali, at one point, as our world started to become, we say there are 4 ages in the philosophy of the Vedas. The age of truth, the age where we kind of go away from truth, and then the more material age, and then now we're in Kali Yuga, which is the age of a lot of turmoil. It's called Kali Yuga, because Kali is, you must have seen it, this very scary goddess, and actually she's not. She takes up all the negative, so that the world can change into positive. And in Kali Yuga, in these scriptures, for many eons before, they wrote, when this age comes, brother will fight brother, sister will fight sister, there will be wars between families, everything will split. It's kind of like the Bible. There'll be a lot of, disturbances. And you have a choice when this age comes. You can bring it back to Satya Yuga, the age of truth. And I totally believe that we are now making this transition to the age of truth. And this is why there is so much turmoil in the world, but there is also so many people arising to their spirit and awareness. Who am I? When they see so much suffering and so much nonsense, they get disconnected. You feel disconnected when you're in pain. Do you know how many people have told me that? They feel like they don't belong in their body. They're like disconnected. So they start to wonder, why is this disconnect? Who am I? So this is why in this age, and in fact there was a great master, I think it was Paramahansa Yogananda's master, Sri Yukteswar. He said, with the coming of electricity and the coming of the electric bulb, that is the sign that the age of truth will start emerging. And isn't it very interesting, this is like studying and learning about these things, that in the late 18th century, there started to arise spirituality from really the Indian base. It's not because it's Indian, it's actually this knowledge has come from the north and went all over the world, but India maintained it. China maintained it to a certain degree. And the Sufis, Taoism, you get this everywhere. It's the same mystical knowledge, right? So that late 18th century, early 19th century, there started to arise these great masters are called gurus. One of the earliest ones that we hear about is Sri Ramakrishna, who I always quote because I love reading his life. And it's been documented, a lot of things. The awareness of the spirit was brought back to humanity. People from the West started to hear because they had seen that they were not happier with more material goods. Already at that time, they were starting to see this. And we do have very, very few people who went to find the truth. But now, we come to the 21st century, and we got thousands and millions of people finding the truth. Going back 20 years when I first started really teaching this science, there was so much skepticism. There was so much, oh, don't do that, that's occult, that's dangerous, Why? Because what was I telling people? The Spirit's in everyone. It's in all of us. We're all dynamically, spiritually alive. Why have we given our power away? Why have we become victims? Why do we think there's a God who's going to put us to hell? What a lot of nonsense. And people don't like hearing that. Because I really believe we as a human race have given up the greatest gift of being spirit in a human body to people who put us in boxes of fear and anger. And this is the only way, or that is the only way. And we've been put into all this fear so that we can be controlled and give more money here and give more money there. And there's no freedom, there's no joy, there's no love for me. And the old Vedas speak of this great power of God, what you want to call it, as the Lord of love. And when I read that, it hit home. It just hit home. Because even a parent doesn't want to harm a child. I mean, well, that's normal. In this age, you get weirdos, you know. What can we do? Love them anyway. But even a parent wouldn't hurt a child. You would forgive your child 1,000,000 times, if not more. In fact, if you ask any parent, it's always the black sheep of the family that they have the most attention on. Have you noticed? And they spend the most time with. And I remember my second brother was the black sheep of the family, and my eldest brother was such a good boy. And he always used to ask my mom, why do you spend so much time with my brother who's so naughty and so little with me? He said, because he needs the love. You're fine. He needs the love. So why, if there was this great energy called God, would this person want us to suffer? Just didn't make sense, right? Does it make sense to you? Do you want your children to suffer? Wouldn't you like your children to enjoy life and be happy and be free? So, and of course, my father was a very happy man, so I realized I'm very joyful and very loving and very generous. And he lived a beautiful life, so there was some truth there. And then I saw my great spiritual master, Swami Satchidananda, and the first talk I heard him really say, guess what? Happiness is your birthright. You're born to be free. Boy, did I love those words. Why do I feel so trapped? Why do I feel so trapped? And this is why Sri Patanjali's science, which is nearly 4,000 years old, or 3.5, whatever you want to say, is so powerful. Because you see, the humans then and now, we haven't changed. People, human beings go through the same journey, generation after generation. All that has changed is the stage. All that has changed is the backdrop. And in this backdrop of life in our generation, we are one of the luckiest generations because we've been given the most comfort, the most gifts. There really is a God of love, and we have not been able to appreciate it. We have not been able to find happiness with all the gifts we've been given. You know, now you press a button in your dishwasher, your washing machine, and yet we're never happy. We never have time. We never have this. We never have that. I remember the old days. You remember people would wash like this for hours. Well, I talk about old days. When I was 20 and came to Gibraltar, I didn't have a washing machine. I used to wash clothes by hand in a tub for hours, you know. So it's not that long ago. So I'm just talking 39 years ago. So you see, we've made so many advances, but people are not happier. Do you see people happier? So this great science, and this is the passion for it, Sri Patanjali, so many years ago, took this teaching, and his students and him jotted down these teachings. But to read them, it's really hard to understand. Because it's like when you take notes, right? If I talk to you and you take your notes, can anybody else understand your notes? No, you would. And okay, yeah, I wrote, you know, it happened at 6 o'clock, but refer to 4 o'clock. What does that mean? Only you would understand refer to 4 o'clock, it happened at 6. So what happened at 4? Anybody reading it find out how to translate. So Sri Patanjali here writes it down, and over the eons, great masters, very wise human beings, have sat down and translated it into language that we can understand. So the Yoga Sutras of Sri Patanjali has been translated by thousands of people. There are thousands translations. One of my favorites, obviously, maybe I'm totally biased, but most 21st century and easy to understand, is by our beloved Master Sri Swami Satchidananda. There is also a brilliant translation by Swami Vivekananda, if any of you like to read. He writes a brilliant, he's very strong and powerful. And you will find, but those two are the translations that I would advise that you look at. So this is who Sri Patanjali was, and this information was passed from age to age to age to age. And the interesting thing is, it's the science. It's a man. It's the journey, the soul's journey, to find what we call God. And the journey is made when we are living, not when we're dead. And it states this is the human mission. And please understand again, when I say God, use your own interpretation. Find it for yourself. Sri Patanjali himself will say, use your own interpretation. You will find in old ancient books of India about saints, one of them found God by hitting a stone every day. They found God in a stone. So find whatever you need to find for your soul to be alive while you're alive. Find the peace, because with the peace comes an understanding. T.S. Eliot wrote about it in his poem, The Wasteland. He finishes it with Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. He studied the Upanishads, trying to find God. Great intellectuals, great philosophers. If you read most of the great German philosophers, all of them finally turned to Patanjali and the Bhagavad Gita for knowledge. Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, his two Bibles was the Bhagavad Gita and Sri Patanjali. And look how a simple man from an average family in a village in India managed to get freedom for India from British rule without violence. Just by practicing this science to the best he could. And look what a simple man who, by the way, studied law in London, and he was hopeless. Did you know that? Have you read Gandhi's life, any of you in this room? Oh, please do. If you get a good biography of him, please do. It will inspire you. It will so inspire you. Read the lives of these great people, because you can see what makes them great. They all touch the spirit. They all touch truth. They all touch non-violence. They all touch love, unconditional love. They all come to the same point. We're all humans. We're all brothers and sisters. All of them come to that same point. Even Albert Einstein, the great scientist, read his quotes, please. Google it. What did he say? He said at the end result, what he had learned from all the science, that the only real job we had to do on this world is love each other as brothers and sisters, and work for the betterment of humankind. Unfortunately, he split the atom, and instead of using it for the best power ever, man used it to destroy. Hiroshima, bang. Nagasaki, bang. The atom bomb, you all know that, right? And you see what we do. And I as a young girl, my father took me to Japan. I went to Hiroshima. And it is shocking. That was my first wave of horror. I went to the museum there. And you can imagine at 12, this museum of all these children born, mutilated, half bodies, half ears, half eyes because of the atom bomb. The destruction. And I remember crying and sobbing and telling my mom and dad, how can we do this to each other? How can we do this to each other. And then it's been my life journey finding out how we can do this to each other. But it's easy to say, how can we do this to each other? When you look at other people doing wrong. And I realized and I learned that really we had to start with I. We had to start, how could I hurt you purposely if I feel that how could these people bomb these people? But how could I hurt the person next to me with intention? Am I not doing the same in a lesser degree? So where do we start? Where do we start on this journey of peace? And Sri Patanjali offered the greatest tools to me. And this is why we love to share it. And there are many teachers here who are well versed in Sri Patanjali. So if I don't give you enough, please ask them. I've been teaching this for nearly 20 years. So, and because it gave me my map to my soul. And I can say it's been a brilliant journey. And the best journey of all is now, at least for me, there's no more search. All my questions are answered. And I know God. It's such a nice feeling. And I'm still in love in life to experience this great joy, this great happiness, even though I've been through so much pain. So this is why I understand when you go through your pain in life, please don't let it stop you. Please don't let it drown you. Please take yourself to another level. And Sri Patanjali tells us, it's called tapas, the word, when we accept pain for purification, when we accept pain and not hurt somebody else in return, a wonderful thing happens to us. It calls it occult powers in the book, but really translated means you develop special abilities. Because when you face pain and you come out of it, what happens to you? Anybody go through pain and come out of it with joy and peace? There's a transformation. There's a huge transformation. Not only in you, but all the people you touch. But if you go through pain and you're bitter and you're constantly complaining and complaining and complaining, you do nothing with it. And you destroy the world with it. And most people do that. 95% of our population lives like that. That's why they're miserable. They don't know how to smile because they don't know. Nobody teaches this in school. We're not taught. And I believe that every single child should be taught about life and death, should be told the truth. We should not lie to our children. We need to teach them this science. I talk to my grandchildren all the time about this. When they get upset with anything, don't take it so seriously. Person is human. Your friend is not bad. His mind is sick. So to this day, both of them find it very hard to see anything bad in anyone because they see straight through the soul. Whereas we've been told, don't trust this and don't trust that, and you better get a good job and you better make lots of money and it's going to make you very happy. Isn't it true? Oh, goals, 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 goals. Make it big bucks. Except for my father, people didn't tell me that. The rest of education told you big bucks means success. And then you look at your life and I know very few people, except my father, with big bucks and have been happy. And what was the difference? And this is the question I had to ask. What is the difference? One has the knowledge of the spirit and the other doesn't. One has the acceptance of pain and moving on and bringing positivity to the world and making the world a better place. And the other one is steeped in all about I, me, mine, my life, poor me, poor me. Whoa, it's this, it's my money, let's hoard it, don't share it. And you see, wow, this is really interesting. It's really quite simple spirituality. When you're in peace and you're in joy and when you're sharing, you're in spirit. And how to achieve this peace. And then the transcendental nature. is to spend time in quiet and connect with the Spirit. That's part 2 of the journey. That's the practicing. Practicing with a clear mind. And today we're going to touch something, a truth. Is it Satya? We're going to touch one of the yamas that Sri Patanjali talks about in order to attain peace in life. He tells us there's lots of things we have to practice to de-stress the mind. So one of the first yama is non-violence, which I believe Patty and Daya spoke about while I wasn't here. Non-violence in action, etc., etc. So now in Sutra 36, which is the second yama, he tells us 131. Book 2, is it?
131, yeah. The new book is a different number. It's 1, 2, 3. I've got the new book. The new book is 1, 2, 3. You'll have the new book.
Anybody who has a new translation of this book is 1, 2, 3. I recommend everybody get one.
We have some there.
Yes, we have some. Thanks to Bhavani's order. Thank you. And it says here, the second thing, if we follow in our life, we'll keep our minds free. And oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's a bit noisy.
From the beginning.
I thought people were hot, so I was like, do I, don't I? But anyway, it's off now.
You really noisy.
It's right in my ear as well. I'll sacrifice, people are hot.
The window's open, so.
So, I love Shanti. She makes me laugh. That's the greatest gift in life, to make somebody laugh. To one established in truthfulness, actions and their results become subservient. Can you all repeat it with me? To one established in truthfulness, actions and their results become subservient. What is truthfulness? Truthfulness is saying something that is pure, something that is true, something that is beneficial. Now, many of us, when I came across this sutra, it says, by the practice of truthfulness, all nature will bow down to you. Whatever you say will come true. If you practice truthfulness, whatever you want or need will come to your life. You don't even have to worry about it. So I thought at that time, much younger than I am now, I'm a kind of person, I don't like lying. I don't like telling a lie, and I don't like when people lie to me. I practice truthfulness. But I decided to really practice in my life. And of course, that time I had a retail outlet. And then when I was working in the shop, you know how many times you want to make a sale? So you go, yes, this is this. I never really lied because it wasn't in my character. But maybe I wasn't so straight with my truth. Valerie nods my head because she was my first staff. She's sitting right here, so she knows I'm not lying. You just want to sell because you want to make sales, So anyway, when I started practicing truthfulness, I realized that there was this thing in my head, that would want, I wasn't telling the truth. So I got pretty freaked out by myself, And so I decided to really start to practice it. So when clients used to come in, and at that time I was in high fashion, the frontier had just opened, and I had clients from Marbella, and sometimes some of my stock was 300, 500 pound dresses, and they would come in and get a client, get a dress she loved, it was 500 pounds and already knew it somewhere, And one of the things I used to say to her is, I'm really sorry. It really doesn't look nice. you know. And as a result, I actually got more clients, more and more and more and more clients, contrary to what most businesses were teaching me. You just have to do the sales, you know, read business books, just do the sales, just do the sales. And I remember telling my husband, Sri Patanjali is a better salesperson than all these business books. I threw them all away because he really wanted me to take a business course. Because I really wasn't born to be a business, but I was running a businesswoman, but I was running the business with him. So he wanted me to, you know, take all these courses that I just found double Dutch. And so dishonest, may I say. So very dishonest. So when I started to practice this, not only did my life become better, my business became better. So this really got exciting for me. Then I realized that when I started seeing people later on in my life, that a lot of problems that they had, many people tell lots of lies. They told lies to their parents, they told lies to their partners, you know, they tell their partners simple lies like, oh, I'm going for a drink with this friend because my husband doesn't like that I go out with this friend. So why would you like to lie to your husband about that? What if you're found out? He's never going to trust you. No. I lie to him all the time. And I said, could that be a reason why you're so disturbed? Because if you are lying to someone, 6 months later you won't remember, will you? Your mind can never be at peace because you've told one story to one person and 3 months later you have to tell the same story. It'll never be right because you can never remember it exactly. You'll tell something else to another person. Then you will be in a constant state of discomfort. Correct or incorrect?
Right.
You know, this is why, you know, sorry folks, you know, people who commit adultery. I tell them, you're committing adultery. You're seeing me and popping pills for depression. Does it make sense to you? Why, if you say this adulterous relationship is making you happy, you should be so joyful. You don't need antidepressants. But what is the problem? I'm not judging anyone. I'm just saying, look where the problem comes from. You're lying all the time. And you can't live with yourself. So for 1 hour or 2 hours of joy, you have 23 or 22 hours of fear. Is it worth it? And you know, and then I tell them what could happen if they get discovered and what their life would look down 3 years down the line. And ask them, ask yourself, is it worth it? If you are so happy in your home, shouldn't you, men and women alike, because this comes from both sides, shouldn't you sit down with your partner and at least talk about it in truth? Do you know, I realize that 95% of our population are cowards. She laughs.
Sorry.
I really got a shock. I really got a shock. Because they prefer to lie and live in misery than tell the truth and find out what is going wrong in their relationship. And then I find myself having to train people. And that's why I said, why don't you all just learn the science and then practice it yourself? And I don't have to train any of you. You be your best trainers. It's best to give people tools to train themselves. And every person that I've given the tool of truthfulness to, in the beginning, they start sobbing and they start, men and women alike, they start sobbing. And they say, yes, I have been lying. I don't like myself. I feel so guilty. I said, that's why you're depressed. So what do you have to do? I have to make my life truthful. But I've made such a mess now and things can't be repaired. And I said, well, you know what? We all have to face the consequences of our action. We all do. If you plant a seed and you don't water it and it dies, it's your problem. Don't blame God. And the whole world goes blaming, why did this happen to me? What did God do? You did the action. If you plant a seed and you water it and you look after it, it will grow, right? So don't blame anybody. You wanted a bit of pleasure, instant pleasure? And this is what Sri Patanjali says, watch out for that instant pleasure. Because it may, and the Bhagavad Gita, what brings you pleasure in the beginning may bring you poison in the end. And what gives you poison in the beginning may bring you pleasure in the end. In the case of medication, homeopathic medicine, she's given me some of this kombucha tea. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's supposed to be really good. You know?
It's at home. I'm becoming a
Yeah,
witch.
she brews it.
A white one.
I'm a white witch, hopefully.
Yeah, a good white witch, you know, that you drink and it's a bit vinegary, but you know it's doing so much good for your body. It's so good for candida. It's a natural herb and it's naturally done, you know. And it even has alcohol in it. Interesting, isn't it?
It actually makes alcohol. It's like it makes it itself.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting. Anyway, into that, you know. So what was I saying? Poison in the end, yeah. So, and many of us, you know, we jump into actions, you know, and this is why I without thinking. Not because we're bad, not because anybody is bad. I for a second, all the people that I have met in my life, who've lied, who've hurt others violently, you know, if I look back in their lives, it's not that they were bad at all. It was either a background that was full of lies and damage, or it's from a place of fear. And really, all they're asking for is love, unconditional love, but they just don't know how to find it. They are in ignorance. So, you know, when I tell them, I read this to them, say nothing has been working in my life well, you know, and this I have seen in my life too. There is a sequence of events when, you know, especially now because adulterous relationship is what's thriving at the moment, and this is where most of the problems are coming from in our world today. You know, and I see a sequence of events of suffering and pain and suffering and pain, not only to them, but to generations. And this is why Lord Jesus said, the children suffer the father's sins. Because when we don't think and live in truth, we can damage future generations. They see the pain is continued in the child. And our job in this new generation is to change this and bring it to a place where we can trust each other, where we can love each other, where we can really wholeheartedly be truthful to each other. Because why? When you're in truth, the mind is very quiet. There's nothing to lie about, right? So there's no what we call vrittis, thought patterns. Oh, I lied about this, and oh my God, you know. And once I knew a person who was an obsessive liar. Really obsessive liar, and she'd go into one problem after another problem after another problem, and she'd lie about money, and it was like a drug. But you see, the pattern of her life was disastrous. Just didn't work. Until she became a very lonely, secluded person. Because a liar will never be believed, even if he or she speaks the truth. Have you noticed that? Once somebody has lied to you, it takes years to trust them again. Years to trust them again. So here Sri Patanjali is very wise. He's telling us this is one of the things you need to observe in your life. Observe the truth. And, you know, how do you observe it? And, you know, Dag asked a very nice question in Portugal when he came to our intensive course. What was the question? Do you remember? Or should I say it? You say it.
I don't know which one.
Well, he asked on truth. And he said, Nalanie, I'm really confused about this. Because there's your truth and there's my truth. But which is the truth? And I thought that was a really brilliant question. Didn't you think it was a brilliant question? Yeah. And it's true. Because we all have each other's truth, right? And so long as it's not causing harm to anyone, it's okay. You believe one thing, I believe one thing. Your belief doesn't, you know, if you believe in Lord Jesus and I believe in Lord Shiva, no problem. shouldn't cause a problem because it's your belief system. If you like Chinese food and I like Italian food, we don't argue about it, you see? So that's your truth and my truth. When it comes to great truths, Sri Patanjali tells us these great vows, he talks about them as the great vows. These great vows, are they permanently? What does he say about them? Do you remember? They are not
touched by the ages or by man or...
That's right. Under no circumstances break them because they cause pain when you break. And what are we as human beings trying to avoid? Pain! So when you break the great vow of non-violence and you cause violence, what do you cause? Very simple to see. Pain. When you lie a lot, what do you cause? Pain. But you not only cause pain to those around you, you cause pain especially to you because you have to live with it. And many people, when they lie a lot in their lives or they, do things that are very harmful, in order not to face it, what do? Come on, let's have a joint. Let's avoid the issue. Oh, we're so spiritual when we're feeling so peaceful. But it's an artificial high. It doesn't belong to you. It's a high caused and induced. It's not your natural high. Why don't you live? Our master used to say, why would you want to live on that high that is borrowed and then you have to spend so much money on it and you can end up in prison for it and you can end up crazy with it because when you use drugs in the wrong way, I have seen many cases and this is really early on in my counseling that I saw much schizophrenia was caused because of drug abuse in an early age. For example, there was this young man who was a brilliant chef, brilliant. He told me from the ages of 18 to 21, he abused a lot. Lots of hash, a lot of marijuana, a lot of this. Anyway, he was 25 now. But he had lots of weird experiences when he was going through that stage. He saw many things. He saw Lord Jesus. He saw many things. He saw the demon. What happened? Then when he stopped, he thought he was fine, right? It's true.
Must have been on acid. Must have been on acid.
Whatever it is, I don't know all those drugs. So, but they tell me, I learned from my patients a lot of stuff, I'm really grateful to them. And so, anyway, when I was trying to find out why he'd go into this personality change and deep depressions, I actually found out every time, anyway, after months of working with him, I found out that, interesting, every time he had any chemical that took him to another level, like for example, he stopped smoking hash and he stopped smoking all that stuff, but he was on alcohol. And every time he had 2 or 3 beers, he'd go into this state of depression and wanting to kill himself. And I go, but why would you want to kill yourself? You got a good job, you got a good life. And then we related these deep depressions to the connection that every time a substance that was a chemical was introduced to his body, it created a memory of what he had done those years. And I was very lucky because in a sense I got many people like that. And after a while I got really good diagnosed schizophrenia to drug use. And since then I've met many people, young people, who've had brothers or sisters put into institutions. They've been fine up to the age of 22, 23, and they've been put into institutions because they've lost their brains. And we have found out as well, this is drug use. And it's really interesting because the yoga science also explains this. And the spiritual knowledge explained that in all of us, we have what we call the spiritual energy, or called Kundalini. It's called Kundalini. Many of you must have heard the word. It's a spiritual energy, the awakening of the divine in us. And it sits at the base of our spine. And it sits dormant at the base of our spine when we live a very material existence. Everything is very material, everything is very earthy, everything is, I do this for you, you do this for me, everything is business, I lie, I cheat, it's all normal. This is part of the business world. They'll tell you, this is normal. When you live in that kind of state, the spiritual energy is dead. Because why? That spiritual energy is the same consciousness from the Lord of Love. So that energy can only really rise in purity when it's full of love and truthfulness. Otherwise, it rises and it distorts the truth. So what happens is when they take these drugs, it affects the nervous system. True or false? Right? It does. It does affect your nervous system. So this Kundalini is awakened, but there is no grounding in that person. The person has not learned about non-violence, the person has not learned about truthfulness, the person is all over the place in the mind, so there's no stability in the mind. So what happens when this energy rises in the body? They don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with it. So they go a little crazy. And they're not ready for the rising of this energy. And how I describe it is like, for example, we have 240 voltage here in Gibraltar, right? In America, it's 120. If you put a 120 hairdryer into a 240 volt voltage plug, what happens? It blows. It blows. We are electrical. Please understand, we are electrical. If you look at our body, we have electrical nerves. If you want to learn about your nervous system, who do you go to? If you have problems with your nerves, which kind of doctor do you go to?
Neurologist.
Yeah, pardon?
Neurologist.
Neurologist, absolutely. You go to a neurologist, and they use electric. They use electricity to find out the electricity that runs in your brain. Isn't it true?
Yeah.
So we are electrical. The heart, electrics, right? When your husband's heart wasn't working too well, what did they do? Bang, bang, to try and get the electricity to work again. So our nerves are really, if you look at your body and you study yourself, it's really very interesting. You have to ask, who am I? I'm a really fantastic machine imbibed with energy called spirit. And that's who I am. So the electrical nerves become damaged, and that's why schizophrenia is caused. It's just by the by telling you about some of the things I have learned in my life. And this is why I encourage people, please try not to take too much substance. It can disturb the electrical circuit when you're not ready. But fanaticism in religion does the same thing. Because when you're fanatic in anything in life, what do? You overdo, right? And what do you build up? Do you see? You're revving up your engine. But there's no stability, so you drive yourself crazy. Got it? That's why we do not encourage high highs, because they bring low lows. And that's why all the spiritual masters talk about balance. Now going back to Doug's question, your truth, my truth, the truth. And the great spiritual vows test them. They take you to another level of peace. Your truth and my truth may not. We may argue, we may have lots of pain, we have lots of discussion. But when you're transcendental, the truth, it sets you free. Isn't that what Lord Jesus said? It sets you free. But how do you get to the truth? The highest truth is, first of all, by practicing truth in your life. Do everything with the spirit of truth. Do everything with the spirit of knowledge. If you don't know something, don't pretend you do. That's lying. I tell all my students, Don't teach me what you don't know. And if you have to teach what you don't know, tell them you don't know. This is what you think. But don't ever lie. So better to talk about what you do know than what you don't know. And when we did this course in Portugal now, they all had to do a talk on the last day. And because they all spoke the truth without a piece of paper, they had to choose one sutra and speak of them. What incredible talks we had. 20 incredible talks I heard that day. And from people who'd only studied the science for a week, it shocked me. Because it goes to prove, when you speak the truth follows you. And now, going back to Gandhiji, I was telling you, he was a lawyer. And as a lawyer in London, he had to defend people who didn't tell the truth, right? But it couldn't sit with him in his heart. It just didn't. Because he studied Tripatanjali, and he studied the Bhagavad Gita. But yet in his trade, he was told he had to lie to protect his client. So every time he went to court, he would stutter. Because he couldn't. He just couldn't. And he was considered a lousy lawyer. When he finally finished his academic work in London and he was sent to South Africa, and he was, insulted for being dark-skinned on the train. And when he saw his people being treated as second-class citizens, there was a spirit that rose in him. And he said, this is injustice. This is against the highest truth, that we're all brothers and sisters, and that is the highest truth. And how can you treat another human being just because of their color of skin that way? How can you do this? And then Gandhi was suddenly given the gift of eloquence. He could speak. He spoke to top politicians in England. He spoke to top politicians all over the world. He moved the highest, highly intelligent, just by the highest truth. And this is what I saw in that course, and it makes my heart sing. Because when everybody lives in the truth, there is a joy that comes out in them. There's a peace. And when you live a good life, and you live a truthful life, and you try to do things correctly, not to cause harm, there's a lot of peace. Many times recently, I've been allowed to go to places where sometimes it's a little bit in the country, and people live very simply. And I see their lives are so rich. Because it always just simple goodness, simple kindness, go help your neighbor, bake a cake for this person, go to your local church, look after the poor, feed the sick. And I see their lives are so blessed. And here, in this generation, we seem to have lost this. We seem to have lost it. And we've lost it because we're so mangled up into what is true, what isn't true. Look at advertising. I have to laugh when I think about this. I'll never think of it the same, because while we were talking about advertising as being delusional, one of the girls in the group said, cellulite. I said, pardon? Cellulite? What do you mean by cellulite? And another person who was a beautician in our group said, oh, none of the creams work. I said, what? You're a beautician and you're telling us none of the creams work. I said, no, don't. You just have to move a lot, and that's the only thing that will work, right? What did she say? Exercise? Exercise is the only thing that works. All these creams that women pay hundreds of thousands for, they don't work. And this was a beautician saying it. So we had a good laugh, And so many of us fall for this advertising, right? Have a nice car, a beautiful sports car, and you get all the women after you. And it makes me laugh. Because is it the truth? What is it? Advertising, right? So if you want to get a sports car because it makes you happy, do it. It's wonderful. But do it for that reason. And otherwise you cause a lot of problems wherever you go. So, talking about the truth, there are many situations in our life that we practice too many lies. Please be aware of that. I'd really like for all of you in this room today, when you go home, to take this one sutra, of truthfulness and really practice it. And then you tell me if Sri Patanjali is right or not. In the second part he says, what does he tell us? All actions and their results become subservient. Nature wants to serve a truthful person. Because everything is run on vibrations. And Stephen Hawkins will confirm this. Everything runs on vibrations, vibrational level. So when you are practicing truth, telepathically, radio waves are very pure. So whatever you want, you will get. And it's really interesting in my early practices of truth, and I'll give you some of the other examples of some of my other students, because it proved to me it didn't only work for me, it worked for everybody else I know who practiced this. It was amazing, this thing. And in one of the early practices, I was really practicing truthfulness for like 3 weeks, practicing, watching every word, and everything. Every time I even told a little white lie for no reason at all. White lies are permitted if it saves a life, or saves somebody. But otherwise, no need to tell white lies. It's only acceptable when you're trying to save somebody's life. So like in the Second World War, the resistance movement, they had to tell so many lies to save people. But many of us tell white lies for no reason at all. Don't waste your time doing that. So what happened was, one day I was in my apartment, and these were the early days of my practice, and I was thinking in my mind, you know, I really would love an Indian mango. Any of you tasted Indian mangoes? They are the most delicious mangoes in the world. And I was living in Gibraltar, and I don't live in India, but you know, when I used to live in Hong Kong, lots of my family's friends would bring us Indian mangoes, and all our family would go, delicious. Where am I going to get an Indian mango in Gibraltar from? I'm sitting, 2 minutes later, ding dong, I'm living in Marina Court, 8th floor. Doorbell rings. Oh, who's coming at this time of the morning? Open. One of the little boys from a friend of mine. Oh, my mother came back from India yesterday, and she said to give you this Indian mango. And I go, what? And she doesn't even know I love Indian mangoes. And she didn't even know that 2 minutes before I asked for the Indian mango. And I got an Indian mango. And this was my first recognition. After that, there have been many things in my life. And I just laugh. Oh God, you really love the truth. You know, after many, many things have happened. And now, I have a student called Shanti here. And Mani Lakshmi here. And so we'll tell some of Shanti's stories, huh? This girl never lies. Sometimes she fluffs, but she doesn't. She gets a little nervous. And goes, and then truthfulness comes back. So in her life, she loves traveling, she loves the science, she loves people. By nature, she loves people. She doesn't have a full-time job. I don't think she really had for a long time now, right?
Lucky.
And she loves to travel. She doesn't have kids. She's got a husband who doesn't mind, and she travels. Problem, you can't keep traveling and spending so much money, right? So, it's so funny. Every time she wants to travel with me, because most of my students cover my expenses. And of course, now that she travels with me because the gods love her so much, I also cover her expenses. Can't help it. You just can't help it. You just have to do it. You just love it to bits. And Lakshmi, my other student who helps me a lot in my work. Anyway, every time she wants to travel, I don't know where, she freelances. She does a freelance job in real estate. And you know, real estate is not brilliant at the moment. Every time I want to travel, she said, oh, you know, Nalanie, I would really like to go. I've made the request. And if the gods will, the money will come. 2 days later, she gets the money. How does she do it? I don't know. Every single trip, huh? Every single trip. And I'm talking about 40 trips now. I don't even think anymore. I don't even think anymore. And then of course she's there. We share accommodation, we share food, we sell a few of my books, and we cover our expenses. It's really easy. It's so easy traveling all over the world. We don't worry. And then we raise lots for charity. It makes us all so happy. And the students are happy, and everybody is happy. And it raised so much money for charity when we were there. And none of us charge for our time. How does it work? None of us charge for our time. We only charge for what the expenses are. We give them bills. There's so much in petrol, so much in food, so much in the... And we don't even go to expensive restaurants. We go to roadside cafes.
11 euros each.
So, you know, and then you see, when you don't take advantage of the universe gives you everything you need back in return. And the students so kindly collected more money, and in the end we raised over nearly 2,000, you know, for Tanzania. We raised for Olga Betania 600 for their room. We left 600 in Portugal for, you know, human charity and an animal charity, because there's a lot of suffering in the animal world. And on top of it, we had a ball. And you know, well, that's Shanti. And then Lakshmi, when we were doing the center, it was amazing. One day she calls me, Nalanie, it's a miracle. What's a miracle? She said, you know how expensive this floor is? And the government said they were going to rebuild. You know, we had rains last year and all the floors were warped. Now, if you know about wooden floors, when they get warped, they come like this. There's no way you can bring it back. My friend Ula had a flood, and her floor is wooden, and it's all like mountains in her house, you know, destroyed, you know, and she has to rip off the whole apartment now that I've gone, start again. So we have these bumps here. She comes in, she said, well, and you know, she's been worried, concerned that we won't get this quality floor that was donated to us. So she comes in, brings the workman in. Guess what? All the bumps are gone. And they themselves, who had seen it a few months before, cannot understand how this miracle has happened. And then she tells me another story. I don't know how many stories you've told me since the building of this, you know, this refurbishment of our center. There's been one miracle after another. So anything we wanted for the center, we would get it. Is it not true, Lakshmi?
Today I've been called and been given the sum of money that we needed for the toilets. I got it today.
Did you hear her? Mm-hmm. You know, we refurbished all the toilets, and I believe that it was in the region of 2,000 something, which we were very happy to pay for.
2,500 have been given.
2,000, and she just told me that today she's been given 2,500 for all we spent in our toilets.
So many good people about it.
Right? Our air conditioning is also being...
It's coming.
It's coming, because these no longer work.
Donated is again donated.
Donated, and not by people that... I don't know, she hasn't told me who it is
They've asked me
anyway.
not to tell
Yeah,
anyone.
they don't want me to announce it. It's an anonymous donor.
But it's the way it happens, no? I remember for the floor, we just put it out there, we need a new floor, we had carpets, maybe wood this time, we're not fussy, any wood. We get teak mahogany, and we get we thought we were going to get what people had lifted, and they were going to pass on, which is good enough. We get them in boxes, and we get the exact amount that we need for the whole. I don't know, was any left over, or was it just exact?
Was
The
exact.
cupboard,
Yeah, to make the cupboard, yeah. Yeah, you know, we've seen this in the center constantly. Throughout our lives, all of us have seen this. Because it was built for a place to live in truth, that everybody who walks in here, I really believe, want to live in truth, or makes an effort to. And this energy, not only Lakshmi's, but all the energy, joint energy of all the human beings, creates this subservience that we don't even have to go out and really go fundraising. It just comes. You know, yesterday it was odd. I had to give 400, well, didn't have to. I just got up in the morning with this thing, I have to give 400 away to charity. Get up in the morning. I have to give this money to this charity and this charity. Shanti, what do we have left from all the classes that I've given in Spain? What happens? My Hatha Yoga class in the morning, packed to the brim. The 100 that I needed for this particular, I got. And the whole day was like that. Everything I spent and gave away came right back. It was amazing to see. It just came right back to give to more other people. It's really quite exciting when you see and live in that energy. So really, it's not for the money, it's not for getting anything in return. It really isn't. It's for the joy of seeing that there's so much more to life than just living to lie and to, why did you do this? And everybody in this mucky world of lying and being angry and telling more lies and more anger and trying to look good and to protect yourself, you lie and you don't say the truth. Because no, it's not really true, because this is the way I am. But this is not the way it should be. You're trying to please yourself, please yourself. There are certain rules of goodness, and we all know them. Unsaid laws that live in this universe, the truth of respect, to respect each other, to respect each other's space, to respect each other's time, to respect each other's moods, to respect each other. Because why, as we say, and I'll finish on this note, Namaste, can you all do it with me? Namaste. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. And that's what it means. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. When this shell is gone, when all these shells are gone, what is left of all of us? We all dissipate as energy. In that energy, is there any matter or substance? Go beyond this earth. Is there any gravity or time? There is nothing. Gravity, time, goodness, what we call the goodness, the different energies, all are just here on this little earth that we live in. Go out of it, you can't breathe. You would just float away, goodbye. Like one of those helium balloons. So, when you see the truth, and the huge truth that is the real truth, really, where on this earth is there time for selfishness? Where is there time to lie and injure and hurt another person? Shouldn't we all be involved in creation? Using that time to create beautiful things, to create beautiful children, to create murals and art and drama and healing practices to serve others. And at the same time, you can make a profit. There's nothing wrong with business. But the business should always think of service first. And those who make profit, wonderful. You help those who don't. But to always use it for service. The smart ones should look after the ones that are not so clever. That's why many times when we had staff in the shop, I remember my husband used to get, why would they don't take so long to learn? And I go, if they didn't take so long to learn, they wouldn't be working for us. They would be running their own business. So be grateful. I said that to many times. Be grateful. Because at least, thank God we have workers. Otherwise, if everybody was so smart, nobody would work for us. They'd be a fool to. Why would you want to work in a retail outlet when you could be creating so many things and making, what was it in those days, £3.50 an hour? Peanuts. So when you look at the reality of the world, your mind goes to another dimension where you don't lie, where you don't need to cause pain, but instead you work for the betterment of the world. So the practice of truthfulness is so deep and so profound. Please, it is so magical and takes you to the divine that is in you. If you want to know God, you need, the Psalm said, be still and know that I'm God. If the mind is so cluttered with stuff and lies, there's no way you can know the truth. First, practice truth in your everyday life. By itself, the gods will take you to a higher place when you are ready. Blessed are the pure, they shall see